Enter the webinar panelist numeric password, followed by pound. Invalid webinar panelist numeric password. Try again. This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and convene the Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District regular meeting for Tuesday, July 25th, 2023. We have done the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask the attorney if we have certification of the agenda.
Yes, the county attorney's office reviewed the agenda and you have jurisdiction over all matters.
Okay, thank you. And do any commissioners have disclosures for items on this agenda?
I have none, thank you.
No, sir.
And I have none either. With that, we'll go to our consent agenda, the Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District public hearing, June 27th, 2023, 2:30 p.m. Approval of minutes.
If it please the board, I do have a motion to approve the request in item A of the consent agenda.
Second.
There's a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries. Item 3 is the regular agenda. Item 3A is resolution for the limited delegation of authority. Jeff Garcia from the county attorney presenting. And probably Martha Marshall.
Actually, I'm going to channel Jeff today.
Yeah,
Hi,
okay.
Martha Marshall for staff. Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District, or GID, was created in 1993 through a vote of our residents. The purpose of the district is to undertake roadway improvements and operations, including maintenance, within the Woodmore Mountain subdivision. Per Colorado Revised Statute 30-20-510, the Board of County Commissioners constitutes the Board of Directors for the district. Woodmore Mountain GID follows all county procurement and financial policies. The Board of Directors authorizes the use of GID funds prior to work being done. This is accomplished through a business meeting. This process can generally be time-consuming, and so to simplify that and streamline, we're bringing forth a resolution today designating signing authority for contracts and invoices from the Board of Directors to the Douglas County County Manager. This does not change the requirement that Woodmore Mountain GID follow Douglas County's procurement and financial policies, which include a competitive bid process and the use of contracts with required insurance. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Martha. Any questions for Martha?
So, Martha, is this saying that the signing authority used to be with Woodmore Mountain Board of Directors, and now it's going to go to Mr. DeBoard?
So what this resolution is doing is delegating signing authority for contracts and invoices from the Board of Directors of the Woodmore Mountain GID to the county manager, yes. So the idea is to make this simple, or simplify the process, because it's rather tedious for us to hold a business meeting or a public hearing every time Woodmore Mountain needs a contract signed or invoices approved. And since this year we have more contracts than normal, we would be coming before the board multiple times to do that, which then holds up Woodmore Mountain's HOA from getting that work done on a timely basis.
So it's from the Board of Commissioners from having to sign, not the Board of Directors at Woodmore Mountain?
Well, the Board of County Commissioners, per statute, sits as the Board of Directors for the GID.
Right, I understand that. I didn't know if it was, because there's also an HOA, so it's not, so all this is doing is relieving us from having to have a meeting for us to sign this, and Doug can sign it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Teal, any questions?
And just to make sure I understand, but it's the Woodmore Mountain Board that would first bring forward the project for Doug to sign.
Well, again, we require the Woodmore Mountain HOA to follow Douglas County's procurement and financial policies. So they do go out to bid for any maintenance that is done within the district, and that's done through our purchasing department. So they do go ahead and follow those things. Once they've done the competitive bid, they've selected an applicant or a contractor, then that would then go, once we then go through the contracting process, it goes to our county manager for signatures. And then subsequently, any invoices on those contracts would then also go through the county manager.
Okay, because we did hear from a member of the Woodmore Mountain Board that, and you spoke to this in your presentation, that there's a level of bureaucracy that is making it difficult for them to just make the changes that they know need to be made, and to the point where in the past, the answer has been, oh, well, why bother? And then we have deferred maintenance that starts piling up. So I'm in favor. I think this is a good move. I think obviously there would be much more work in order to truly make them self-determinant because of how they were created as a district. But no, I'm in favor. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Teal. And I would say in my time, and this is overdue to have this delegation, so thank you for streamlining. I certainly appreciate that. Let me open it up for any citizen comment. Is there any citizen comment either in person or online with regard to this item 3A?
No online comment, Commissioner.
Okay, not seeing any citizen comment, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and or a motion.
I have a motion to approve a resolution for the limited delegation of authority.
Second.
So there's a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries 3-0. We are adjourned. And in a moment, we will begin our land use meeting and public hearing once we get the green light from IT. You all set? Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your patience. We did have a fairly long regular business meeting earlier today. It's about 4 p.m. on Tuesday, the 25th. I'll go ahead and call to order the meeting of our land use and public hearing today. If you all rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. Attorney Garcia, do we have certification of today's agenda?
You do. The county attorney's office has reviewed the agenda. The board has jurisdiction over all matters, and all matters have been given proper notice.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Do any commissioners have disclosures for items on this agenda today?
I have none.
No, sir.
And I have none either. We do not have any land use meeting agenda items today, so we'll move from 2 to item 3, which is our public hearing agenda items. Item 3A is River Canyon Plan Development, 9th Amendment, project file ZR 2022-033. Heather Scott, Principal Planner, presenting for staff. Hi, Heather.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Heather Scott, representing Planning Services. The request is a major plan development amendment for River Canyon PD. Project number ZR 2022-033. Kevin Collins and Jeff Collins from Ravenna Golf and Development are here today. The request is a major plan development amendment to the River Canyon Plan Development Map to allow residential uses in Planning Area 1 for the development of up to 10 dwelling units and to move the permanent administration use to Planning Area 4. The intent of the major PD amendment process is to encourage innovative and creative design and to facilitate a mix of use in the development of a balanced community, including residential, business, commercial, recreational, open, and other selected secondary uses in accordance with Section 2467-101 of the Colorado Revised State Statutes. Major PD amendment process begins with submittal of an application. Following a review period by referral agencies and the public, notice is given for public hearings before the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. Staff received several calls questioning the request and letters of an objection from an abutting property owner, which are included in your staff report. This neighbor is concerned that the only residential allowed along Caretaker Road is within Planning Area 5, isolated single family. At its June 26, 2023 public hearing, the Planning Commissioners recommended denial by a vote of 5-2. Public comment noted the PD intent to provide for isolated single-family residential dwelling in Planning Area 5, and this amendment alters the original intent of the PD. The Planning Commissioners felt that Section 1520 of the Douglas County Zoning Resolution, approval criteria of a major amendment, could not be met. Specifically, they mentioned 1520.01, whether the amendment is consistent with intent and preservation of the entire plan development, since Planning Area 1 is currently identified as permanent administration. 1520.03, whether the amendment will adversely affect the public interest or enjoyment of the adjacent land, since the adjacent land is identified as isolated single family. And Section 1520.07, whether the roadway capacity necessary to maintain the adopted roadway level of service for the proposed development has fully been met. The River Canyon Plan Development 9th Amendment area is identified by a red star and is located in the northwest portion of Douglas County. Planning Area 1 is identified in red and Planning Area 4 is outlined in blue. These uses are located approximately southwest of the intersection of Waterton Road and Dante Drive. As seen on the aerial outlined in red, Planning Area 1 is developed with the administrative offices and the maintenance facility for the Ravenna Golf Course and development. Outlined in blue is Planning Area 4, vacant land adjacent to the Platte River. As a background, the original River Canyons Plan Development was approved back in 2001. The plan development created the Ravenna Golf Course and development. The First Amendment adjusted planning area boundaries. The Second Amendment established single-family residential uses in Planning Area 5. The Third Amendment adjusted planning area boundaries. The Fourth Amendment changed allowed structure types on the golf course. The Fifth Amendment was withdrawn. The Sixth Amendment changed setbacks for Planning Area SF-1A. The Seventh Amendment adjusted side setbacks for some selected lots. The Eighth Amendment adjusted the boundaries of Planning Areas 5, 6, and 8. And today before you is the Ninth Amendment. The proposed PD amendment map change with the red boundary identifying Planning Area 1 and the blue area identifying Planning Area 4 for clarity. Planning Area 1 will become AC-3, which will allow attached and clustered housing for the development of up to 10 dwelling units. The permanent administration use will shift to Planning Area 4. Planning Area 1 is 3.8 acres, and Planning Area 4 is 5.5 acres. This request does not result in an increase in overall density or acreage to the River Canyon Plan Development. Rather, it allows residential uses to shift from one planning area to the new Planning Area AC3. There are currently 12 dwelling units available. There are a few minor setback changes as well. Following are site photos. This view is west through Planning Area 1 into the existing parking lot for the Ravenna Sales Center, looking at the maintenance yard. This view of Planning Area 1 is looking northeast from the cart path into the maintenance yard. This is a view southwest into Planning Area 4. This photo is taken from Caretaker Road looking north through Planning Area 4. And this view is from the Ravenna Clubhouse, looking north over Planning Areas 1 and 4 and the wastewater treatment center at the end of Caretaker Road. Section 1522.08 sets forth the parameters for the board's recommendation of a major amendment request. The approval standards for a major plan development amendment request are set forth in section 15 and are listed on this slide. Staff's assessment of the approval standards is discussed in detail on pages 7 through 9 of the staff report. Staff has evaluated the major plan development amendment request in accordance with section 15 of the zoning resolution. Should the board find the approval standards have been met, staff proposes the following conditions be included in the motion. Condition number 1, prior to recordation, all technical corrections will be made to the plan development document to the satisfaction of Douglas County. Condition 2, prior to approval of a plat or a site improvement plan in Planning Area AC3 and Planning Area 4, the applicant will demonstrate to the satisfaction of Douglas County that Denver Water or a successor in ownership of Caretaker Road has approved the development's access to Caretaker Road. And condition 3, all comments and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representative during the public hearing and or agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving this application. Therefore, such approval is conditioned upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all such commitments and promises. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available to take questions on the staff report at this time. Otherwise, Kevin Collins and Jeff Collins from Ravenna are here with a presentation.
Great, thank you so much, Heather. Any questions for Heather?
I don't have any, thank you.
No questions.
And I have none either. So with that, we'll invite the applicant to come forward with a presentation. Welcome, Kevin.
Do I have the ability to?
Yep, I'll bring that. Thank you, I'll pull it right up for you.
Thank you and good afternoon, Chairman Layden and Commissioners Teal and Thomas. My name is Kevin Collins. I'm the President and CEO of River Canyon Real Estate Investments, better known as the Club at Ravenna. With me is Jeff Collins, our Director of Development. We're before you today seeking approval of a 9th Amendment to the River Canyon Plan Development that will allow the construction of up to 10 homes in Planning Area 1. We know that many complex issues become before you, and we thank you for the time and your energy you spent to understand ours. Our goal today is to make our case clear and correct any misconceptions. We did a poor job of that at the Planning Commission meeting in June. We were not as well prepared as we should have been. The result was that important information was left unsaid or not included in the materials submitted with our application. In other cases, misstatements were made that we failed to correct. The understandable result was confusion and an incomplete picture of our requests, which led to the Commission's vote. Our purpose today is to ensure that you have all the correct information needed to vote on our proposed amendment. In addition to the facts, we hope to also provide the context and background that are requisite to a fully informed decision. We believe that once you see the whole picture and we correct or clarify any misconceptions stemming from the Planning Commission hearing, you will approve what we know is a reasonable amendment that falls well within the parameters set forth in the development plan. As you may know or may not know, Ravenna is a family business. My wife, sons, and daughter play important roles in our operations and management. I'll hand this over to Jeff Collins, our Director of Development, who will take you through the details.
Thank you, Kevin. Jeff?
Good afternoon, Chairman Layden and Commissioners Teal and Thomas. As you are aware, we are proposing a zoning change with make it possible the construction of 10 homes in what's currently known as Planning Area 1. And that area is occupied now by our temporary sales center and maintenance facility. We've worked with your planning department and commission staff to ensure that this proposed amendment meets the county criteria. In section 1520.01 requires the amendment to be consistent with the development standards, commitments, and overall intent of the planned development, as we are not asking to exceed the 250 home cap. County staff says it is consistent. Section 1520.02 asks whether the amendment is consistent with the intent, efficient development, and preservation of the entire planned development. The county staff says it is consistent with the original intent of the planned development of residential and golf course related activities. Section 1520.03 asks whether the amendment will adversely affect the public interest or enjoyment of adjacent land. The county staff concludes that the proposed amendment will not adversely affect the enjoyment of the adjacent land. This meaning people will still be able to walk along the Highline Canal, ride their bikes, and also visit the Platte River. Section 1520.04 questions whether the sole purpose of the amendment is to confer a special benefit on an individual. The staff concludes it does not convey any special benefit to any one person. Indeed, the county will also benefit with increased tax revenue, and the residents will also benefit as they walk past on the Highline Canal, not seeing a large parking lot and facility right there. Section 1520.05 requires scrutiny of any increase in the intensity of allowed land uses, including changes to density and whether the amendment is consistent with the water supply standards. Your staff concludes this amendment does not increase the intensity and there is no increase in density. Further, the Roxborough Water and Sanitation District confirms its ability to serve the development. Section 1620.06 exists to ensure whether public facilities and services necessary to accommodate the proposed development will be available. The staff concluded the development doesn't change the impact to public facilities and services that they can accommodate the development. According to 1520.07, whether the roadway's capacity needed to accommodate the development is sufficient. We provided a detailed traffic study to the county, and the staff found existing public roadways are sufficient to maintain the current level of service. The traffic study confirmed, and I quote, "The resultant level of traffic will not cause an undue congestion or operational issue at Dante Drive intersection along Waterton Road." We have a proposal before the county to build a new maintenance facility in Planning Area 4, but that's a separate proceeding and not under consideration today. The county planning staff report notes the zoning change and addition of 10 homes does not increase the overall density or acreage of River Canyon's planning district. The River Canyon Development Plan doesn't allocate density to specific planning areas. Rather, it imposes a maximum of 250 units within the residential planning areas. The new homes will raise the total number of homes to 245, below development's cap of 250. The staff report sees no constraint related to soils and geology and notes that no structures will be built in the 100-year floodplain next to the Platte River, located north of Planning Area 4. There are no apparent issues with services. The Douglas County School District reviewed the proposal and has no objections. West Metro Fire and Rescue expressed no objections, as did the Douglas County Sheriffs. Roxborough Water and Sanitation District and Dominion Water and Sanitation District have no objections. Local utilities offered a few comments, but there was no objections. Denver Water owns Caretaker Road, and we use it with their permission through an access easement agreement. Denver Water has no objection to the rezoning, but reserves the right to deny our access to the road pending resolution of certain maintenance and access issues. They requested a traffic study, which we performed and provided to them. It predicts that the 10 new homes will generate 126 trips per day. We've also submitted a plan for improvements to the road and an outline for new access agreement. In the Caretaker Road improvement submittal to Denver Water, Ravenna would like to pave the existing dirt road starting at the edge of PA 5 and continue all the way to the beginning of Dominion's wastewater treatment plant to the west. And the new road will be paved to Douglas County standards. We are awaiting their responses. We can assure the county that no construction or any other activity related to the Ninth Amendment will occur until after we've reached the agreement with Denver Water. We are confident that we can come to a resolution. Since Ravenna's present ownership took control in 2014, we've strived to act with transparency and engage in proactive communication with our neighbors on all sides. We've done this while dramatically transforming Ravenna from a failed business to one of America's most prestigious golf communities. Our immediate neighbor to the north in Planning Area 5 opposes our proposal and has made multiple statements and allegations in written and verbal form that are misleading or wrong. This is the only objection from any neighboring property. All other property owners that abut Ravenna have raised no objections. We empathize with Mr. Greska's frustrations, but his concerns about preserving an isolated single-family home lifestyle are allegedly based on a private agreement between him and the previous owner of Ravenna over 20 years ago. We became involved in 2014, and it was not until 2021 that we became full owners. We have no relationship or connection with the previous owners. Since gaining full control, we've invested more than $40 million to transform Ravenna from a moribund enterprise into one of the most highly regarded country clubs in the region. Mr. Greska alleges the Second Amendment to the plat memorializes an agreement with Ravenna's prior ownership that his home would be the only residence north of the Highline Canal. This is not true. The isolated single-family home classification applies only to Planning Area 5. No other surrounding areas are subject to this requirement. There are no documents to support this claim. Quite simply, filing 2 of the plat does not constitute a verbal or handshake agreement between Mr. Greska and the previous owner of Ravenna. Mr. Greska alleges the flowage easement on Planning Area 4 prohibits structures, but he currently has a non-habitable structure on the same easement. The development standards in the current plan allow for construction of a clubhouse, maintenance facility, and related facilities. We are currently working with the Army Corps of Engineers to confirm our ability to place an updated maintenance facility in Planning Area 4. We expect to resolve this matter in the next few weeks. Mr. Greska alleges there was an insufficient public notice for the rezoning of Planning Area 4. This is not true. There was no rezoning required for Planning Area 4, as the maintenance facility is an allowed use under the PD. We are currently in the site improvement plan process. I'd like to remind everyone here, this meeting is not to decide Planning Area 4. It is to decide the rezoning of Planning Area 1. Mr. Greska alleges the rezoning violates his right to construct an isolated single-family home on Planning Area 5. This is also not true. The isolated single-family home language remains intact and applies only to Planning Area 5. The language, however, does not extend beyond the boundaries to any other surrounding parcels. Mr. Greska alleges zoning violations took place at the current maintenance facility in Planning Area 1 before the Ninth Amendment was submitted for approval. This is also not true. Ravenna is unaware of any alleged violations, and the county has never contacted us about any alleged violations. PA1 has the allowed use of the maintenance facility currently. One point we want to emphasize, our administration offices have moved into our clubhouse. We no longer envision moving them to the new structure in Planning Area 4. Several places in the materials submitted to the commissioners still say we intend to permanently move our administration operations to Planning Area 4. Therefore, we would like to strike all references to the administration operations moving permanently to Planning Area 4 from the Ninth Amendment. I thank you for your time, and I would like Kevin to come and finish.
Okay, thanks.
3 to 4 years ago, I was approached by Mr. Greska to look at a proposal to purchase land from the Ravenna Metropolitan District. The land purchase would allow Mr. Greska to build his home outside the unbuildable flowage easement. Recognizing his frustration and in a spirit of neighborly cooperation, I encouraged the Ravenna Metro District Board, of which I am a part of, to allow the purchase of the additional land needed to relocate Mr. Greska's home site. The Metro District was very accommodating to Mr. Greska. In addition, I gave Mr. Greska land that makes construction of his house possible. Mr. Greska alleges Ravenna has been unresponsive to his concerns. Again, we believe this is not true. Ravenna has responded to his concerns in a letter to Heather Scott, has been upfront with Mr. Greska about our development plans, and there's been emails and verbal conversations with Mr. Greska concerning the planned development over an extended period of time. Ravenna's request is in line with the intent of the amendment process. That's why it exists, so development plans can be updated with changing times and circumstances. Almost everyone agrees the amendment process is an important part of the planned development district process. The Douglas County zoning resolution says the intent of the amendment process is, and I quote, "to encourage innovative and creative design and to facilitate a mix of use in the development of a balanced community, including residential, business, commercial, recreational, open space, and other selected secondary uses." 9 years ago, when I took over management of Ravenna, it was a failed enterprise with multiple legacy issues related to a recession, bankruptcy, infrastructure, facilities, operations, and management. There was no clubhouse, just a sprung tent. There were fewer than 50 golf members. There was 166 home sites that remained unsold. We stabilized ownership and refinanced the Ravenna Metro District bonds that underpinned the development. We joined the Roxborough Water and Sanitation District, fixed development-related issues, rebuilt parts of the golf course, invested in state-of-the-art, environmentally friendly maintenance equipment, built a clubhouse, fitness center, and pool. After an investment of more than $40 million, Ravenna is now one of the most prestigious golf communities in America. All existing home sites are sold, and the majority are starting to be occupied, contributing millions of dollars in property taxes to Douglas County. Growth in club membership and facilities has created scores of hospitality and golf industry jobs. We're proud to call Douglas County our home and are mindful of our obligation to give back to the community. We strive to conserve Douglas County's water. The average golf course irrigates between 85 and 100 acres. We only irrigate 70. That conservation is made possible by our use of drone technology to identify and water in a more effective manner. Every year we host an important event, the Ravenna Invitational benefiting the Infinite Hero Foundation. This event has raised about $2.5 million over 9 years to support Infinite Hero, a nonprofit organization that provides a range of assistance to veterans and their families facing physical and mental health challenges. The question is, have we clarified the issues and answered the questions surrounding the rezoning request? As we said at the start of this presentation, we acknowledge preparation for the Planning Commission meeting in June was insufficient and left folks with more questions than answers. That put this proposal in jeopardy based on the Planning Commission's vote. I hope we've addressed those shortcomings and provided you what you need to move forward and vote. We empathize with Mr. Greska and have done our best to address his issues. Notwithstanding Mr. Greska's concerns, Ravenna has submitted every document and fulfilled every requirement for amending a development plan. The only outstanding issue is gaining Denver Water permission to continue using Caretaker Road. We're confident we'll be able to resolve this soon, and we pledge not to start any work in this area until the matter is settled. From what was a largely rural county 40 years ago with a population of 32,000, Douglas County has successfully managed what at times was truly explosive growth. Today, all 369,000 county residents live in a much admired balance of residential, commercial, and business environments, enhanced by open space, recreational facilities, and wildlife corridors. It's no surprise Douglas County is one of the best places to live in America. We're committed to uphold these practices in all our actions, large and small, including what we hope will be the approval of this 9th Amendment to the development plan that governs our existence. On behalf of the entire Ravenna team, we thank you for your time and consideration.
Great, thank you so much. Any questions for the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Collins, thank you. Towards the beginning of the packet, I think it was on page 29, is the letter from Denver Water's attorney that they do not approve of this proposal. And this is based on Caretaker Road, which you say that you are going to be able to get resolved. So tell me what that looks like, because Denver Water here seems pretty clear that they're not going to approve what you want.
Well, I think Denver Water's asked some very good questions with the current access easement agreement. We're changing the structure of the area down to where we're talking about for the 9th Amendment. We did receive a subsequent email that's in the, I believe it's in the packet, that said that they don't oppose the rezoning, but they want to see how they want to look at the housing development, they want to look at the maintenance facility, and they want to look at the traffic report again. So I feel like we provided them with an outline of things that we would do for Denver Water for that road. We said we would reconstruct that in accordance with our requirements of Douglas County. We would maintain it and so forth. And I think those were some of their concerns, and we tried to address those. So they're waiting for us to start the process for the 4th Amendment for PA4 once we receive that approval from the Army Corps of Engineers.
So this is for staff. Even though Denver Water doesn't approve this, if we approve this now, can we approve this now without Denver Water's approval in this part?
Heather Scott for staff. Heather Scott for staff. That work?
Yes.
On pages 51 and 52, Denver Water sent Ravenna a follow-up email June 7th stating that they would agree to, or they have no objection to the rezoning, but reserve the right to deny any future approvals. And so condition number 2 of the staff report does indicate that they still have to resolve this issue before going further to the next step. And that's either a subdivision or a site improvement plan process.
Okay, thank you. And I do have some other questions, but I'm going to wait to hear from citizen comment before I ask the rest of my questions.
Okay, additional questions or comments from the board?
So right now, Planning Area 1, if I'm looking at the aerials properly and the presentation that came from staff, I mean, you've got buildings there right now.
We have our sales office that's been there since the inception in 2005, and our maintenance facility is there also.
Okay, so it's, okay. And then the Denver water question was one of my other questions, but thank you, Commissioner Thomas, for addressing that. That's my question right now.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Teal. So looking back at the Planning Commission's denial, can you walk me through in some more detail what happened there from a staff perspective, and have those issues been rectified?
Heather Scott for staff. The planning commissioners were concerned that the three items of the approval standards, and they were saying specifically that they didn't feel that Denver Water had been resolved, even though it was a condition of approval. And then they were questioning whether or not this was, let me pull it back up here real quick. Or 1520.01 states that the amendment is consistent with the intent and preservation of the entire plan development, since Planning Area 1 is currently identified as permanent administration. And so I think they got hung up on that word. It's administration for the building, the question of whether or not permanent, what that means. And then 1520.03, will the amendment adversely affect public interest and enjoyment of the adjacent land, since the adjacent land is identified as isolated single family? And the applicant has made direct response to both of those issues from the Planning Commission hearing.
Okay, so does it change your staff analysis at all? I just want to make sure we're up to speed and talking in real time as of today.
Yes, staff's analysis supported both of those.
Yeah, okay. Okay, any additional questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, let me open it up for any citizen comment. Is there any citizen comment? Yes, ma'am. And if you do have citizen comment, you're welcome to line up, and you want to just state your name and where you're from for the record, please.
Of course. I'm Britta Strother. I'm with Dominion Water and Sanitation District. And thank you so much for your time. I am here on behalf of Dominion. We are currently collaborating with Douglas County and with Castle Rock on our wastewater treatment plant. And I want to be clear, we're not here in opposition to the proposed development, but we want to be sure that any new residents within the development are aware in advance of the wastewater treatment plant being there in the future. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. You can approach, yeah, if you want to just provide those to the county council, he'll label those as an exhibit.
My name is Robert Greska. I own Lot PA5 across Caretaker Road from Lot PA1, the permanent offices. My property also abuts PA4, a designated water storage lake. Notice the isolation of our lot on PA5 on the exhibit number 1. We are isolated as our property. I object to the applicant's proposed Ninth Amendment. It fails to meet several zoning criteria of 1520. Per section 1520.01 and 02, excuse me, the amendment is not consistent and in direct opposition with the commitments, preservation, and the original intent of the River Canyon Plan Second Development. Let me explain. My then wife, Monette and I, Monette Demuth, the original signers of the PD and plat, and testify here in person to the intent and commitment of the PD and plat. To make the entire development of Ravenna possible, Ravenna needed our isolated home of 21 years for the entry drive access. We agreed to trade our isolated country home with the assurance, Exhibit 2, that we would be able to reconstruct an isolated single-family home like the one we sacrificed, i.e. as in specifically being isolated in the country as having no nearby neighbors or bustling maintenance facility as shown on the PD in Exhibit 1. Confirming this, the PD shows that PA1 would have permanent offices in Exhibit 3 and not cluster homes. Per 1520.03, the proposed 10 cluster homes on PA1 and a maintenance facility on PA4 will virtually surround our lot, PA5. See Exhibit number 4. This denies the original intent and commitment of our isolation and peaceful enjoyment of our land with homes close by, increased noise, increased traffic, and potential pollution. Per Section 1520.04, the construction of 10 high-density homes outside of the gated Ravenna community confers a special benefit of economic gain to the applicant to our detriment. The access to lots PA1 and my lot PA5 is by an easement over Caretaker Road, which is not a road, but an open space and not designed as a road for the increased traffic. It is contrary to Section 1520.07. I have expressed my concerns to the applicant in conversations and in writing. The applicant has never addressed my concerns of crowding my isolated home. I would like to point out the applicant updated his submittal with only a portion of his email response to me. He specifically deleted my first two and primary concerns about retaining our isolation of our lot, and he failed to respond to these. He cut them out of the submittal. The full email is attached. See Exhibit 5. The original River Canyon developer confirmed and specifically pointed out the intent and commitment of our isolated lot and signed it on the PD. I strongly object to the Ninth Amendment.
Thank you, sir. Any additional citizen comment? Welcome. If you just want to state your name and where you're from.
Good afternoon. My name is Monette Demuth, and I live in Conifer, Colorado. I am here to testify to intents, commitments, and hardships. The applicant is now requesting Amendment Number 9 to permit 10 additional cluster homes to PA1. Mr. Greska and I are the only two people here today that signed the original plat and PD, hence giving true testimony of the original intent and commitment behind these documents. The applicant for River Canyon approached our family several times with attempts to purchase our isolated home, now located precisely under Dante Drive, because this was the only land that would allow entry access to the proposed Ravenna development. After much negotiation, the final agreement stated on the plat and PD was to provide for an isolated single-family home on the north side of the canal. We were told this would be the only home ever located there as an equal trade for the home we were surrendering to them. We had no neighbors in sight or sound, and we were promised a home with no future neighbors in sight or sound. The proposed Ninth Amendment is inconsistent with the preservation of that intent and the commitment in the documents we agreed upon and signed. This is not in compliance with the sections 1520.01 and 1520.02. The applicant then provided a title commitment with the plat we later found out did not show that the PA5 was in fact in the Corps of Engineers flowage easement. After our relocation, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers notified us that we could not build our home on PA5. We were ultimately sued to vacate and remove the temporary manufactured home we purchased to live in while we were building our family's residence. The totality of emotional, physical, and financial hardships this placed upon our family was indescribable. My children were born on this land, grew up on this land. Now we were the sole victims of a duplicitous development deal that shattered our future. We gave up our family's isolated country home in exchange for floodplains that we could not build on. Ravenna Development has enjoyed financial gain with well over 200 homes and now asking for 10 more. Granting this amendment would negate original intents, commitments, and would adversely affect our family's enjoyment on the adjacent land. I strongly oppose the proposed Ninth Amendment because it clearly violates the county's approval criteria for 1520.01, 02, 03, 04, and possibly 05. We understand that PDs can be amended. What cannot be compromised today are the intents and the commitments agreed upon in the original PD. We cannot change the past, but we ask you to protect our family from further loss by not approving Amendment 9. Thank you for your time and consideration for our family.
Thank you, ma'am. Additional citizen comment? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Joshua Nelson. I live in Callahan, Colorado, and I'm the older stepson of Mr. Greska and my mom who just spoke here. I grew up in the old single-family home that is now located under the pavement at Dante Drive. I also later lived on PA 5 before we were forced to move by the Army Corps of Engineers, who filed a lawsuit to make us to leave. I was old enough at the time to remember these events. I grew up my whole life down in that area, long before Ravenna was there. My objections is based on the fact that the proposed amendment of rezoning of Lot PA1 and allowing 10 cluster homes will only confer a special economic benefit upon the applicant to the detriment of the owner of PA5 and my family, which conflicts with the requirements of Section 1520.04 of the Douglas County Zoning Resolution. In addition, per Section 1520.01, the proposed amendment violates its commitments of the original plan development, and per 1520.02 is inconsistent with the intent of the entire plan development and would materially adversely affect my family's use and enjoyment of the adjacent land of PA 5 in contradiction to 1520.03. I gotta be honest, it's weird sometimes calling these lands different things, because a lot of this was just land that I grew up on as a kid, and a lot of these places I remember walking my dog, riding my horses, and things like that. It was interesting to me as being a teenager when we lost our property. In my mind, it was interesting that Ravenna was able to build a development and get all of the economic benefits of having a development, and we lost our family farm that I grew up on. Obviously, it was interesting. We were given a piece of property that was flood easement. I mean, it's just useless. It's like swampland, something like from a story. And even now that I have 5 kids, it's hard for me to realize that my 5 kids are never going to get to experience the land that I got to experience growing up. Allowing this amendment will clearly fail to preserve the intent of the entire development as represented on the River Canyon PD. For all these above reasons, I object to the 9th Amendment. And what little we have down there, I don't want to lose anymore. We were there before Ravenna, and it's still shocking to me just how different it is there. And even mentioning of just only the neighbor of Mr. Greska opposes, well, that's because we're the only neighbors there, and we were the only people there for a very long time. And so I want to thank you guys for your time. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Additional citizen comment?
I have no online comments, Commissioner.
Thank you, Christy. We still have a few more in the room. And can I just see by a raise of hands who else has citizen comment? Okay, I'm going to ask for you to just line up behind this gentleman here, if you would. Thank you very much. Go ahead, sir.
Excuse me. Thank you for hearing us. I really do appreciate it. My name is Jacob Greska. I live in Castle Rock. I'm here to support my dad and my family by helping convey some information. I'm the oldest birth son of Robert Greska and second son of my mother, Monette Demuth. I grew up in the house that was located where the applicant, River Canyon, built Dante Drive, and then we lived on PA5 until we were forced to move by the Army Corps of Engineers. I'm here to object the proposed River Canyon Planned Development 9th Amendment that would permit the construction of the 10 homes on PA1. Per section 1520.01 and .02, the proposed amendment does not preserve the commitments. The original intent of the planned development was negotiated and agreed to as documented. An isolated country home was what my parents had, and that's what they preserved on the PD when we gave up our country home. This continued isolation on trading for lot PA5 was my parents' only primary concern. This proposed amendment does not comply with section 1520.03 of the Douglas County Zoning Resolution because it will materially adversely affect my family's use and enjoyment of PA5 by creating higher density housing where my family is building an agreed to isolated single-family home in accordance with the planned development. For the foregoing reasons, I object to the 9th Amendment.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comments. Additional citizen comment? Yes, sir.
Howdy, nice to meet you guys all. Let's see, my name is Joseph Greska. I live in Littleton, Colorado. I am here to speak about the property of my dad's. I was born on the property. I've spent my whole life down there. Grew up like before pretty much anyone else was out there. We were forced to move off PA5 by the Corps of Engineers. The applicant, in my opinion, might be polluting our family's well water supply. I've seen them dumping truckloads of like what appears in my perspective to be sewer trucks, but it could be whatever, sludge. They also have sludge pits that are surrounding their facility, and I'm concerned about contamination from there. Our well is located directly downhill, like a underground geology slope, and leads right into our well, so very concerned about contaminations. They have not agreed to test them for possible groundwater contamination. I noticed they started digging up the sludge that they dumped down there after we made some complaints, and that doesn't matter. What's affected is affected. The Roxborough Water and Sanitation District notified us last February, see Exhibit 11, that they just found contamination in the groundwater near where they were and had closed a waste facility. This contamination was not present during the 2007 tests. There is now Now there is contaminants found commonly in fertilizers. Ravenna's golf course grass was planted after 2007. The Colorado Department of Public Health and Testing, the Colorado Department of Public Health is testing our well water. My family, including many small children, animals, just everything, drink this water, and we're very concerned about the conditions of it. Per 15-2003, the action of the applicant shows that they are not good stewards of the land. I believe the applicants may have caused harm and facilities and faculties next to us that could cause greater harm and hurt the enjoyment of our health and safety on our land. Therefore, I object to the 9th, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Additional citizen comment? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Samuel Greska. I live in Calhoun, Colorado, and I was born up on the property that was located where Dante Drive now is. And then grew up on PA5 until we were forced to move by the U.S. Corps of Engineers. I'm here to object to the 9th Amendment submitted by the applicant because it is not consistent with the criteria stated in Section 15.20.03 and 15.20.07 of Douglas County Zoning Resolution rezoning PA1 by the 9th Amendment to permit 10 cluster homes in a 5-acre maintenance yard will materially adversely affect my family's use and enjoyment of PA5, where my father is building an isolated single-family home. My siblings and I have enjoyed the rural isolation and private aspects of PA5 even after we were forced to move. I have been there many early mornings and late evenings and observed the daily traffic flow on Caretaker Road. PA1, PA4, and PA5 is accessed through an easement across Caretaker Road, which is designated on the plat of the River Canyon Filing Number 2 as open space. It has never been a road open to the public and is not built to handle a lot of traffic. We see about 20 vehicles per day and other construction vehicles for Ravenna on the road. This is open space and not a public road. The proposed 10 cluster homes are to be accessed off Caretaker Road, not Dante Drive. The traffic impact analysis submitted by the applicant studied the intersection of Dante Drive and Waterton Road. It did not include any part of Caretaker Road where the significant impact would take place. Also, the traffic report did not address the impact of the work trucks parked along Caretaker Road in front of our lot PA5 on weekday mornings, blocking traffic and creating wear and tear on Caretaker Road while they wait to be let into Ravenna at 7 a.m. Exhibit 7. If the Ninth Amendment is allowed, Caretaker Road will have more work trucks parked there for 2 years, per the traffic report. On June 26, Jeff Collins stated in the public meeting in front of the Douglas County Zoning Commissioners that the addition of 10 cluster homes would have no impact and actually fewer cars on the road, on Caretaker Road. Contrary to the traffic report and traffic impact analysis, that states that there would be 126 additional vehicles at the intersection of Dante Drive and Waterton Road. Furthermore, the traffic impact analysis did not address the condition of Caretaker Road and how it would need to be rebuilt to withstand the heavy construction traffic, permanent overflow visitor parking, and workmen increased vehicle trips, and golf carts and foot traffic from the proposed 10 houses. I object to the proposed Amendment 9 for the foregoing reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Additional citizen comment. Welcome.
I think I'm the last. My name is Carol Terranova, and I live in Littleton, Colorado. I'm a longtime friend of the Greska family, many years. I know all about what they've gone through. And I just want to summarize why the Ninth Amendment proposal does not meet all the standards in the Section 1520 of the Douglas County Zoning Resolution. First, the applicant's proposed amendment does not meet 1520.01 because it is inconsistent with the planned development's overall intent. The planned development reflects a settlement memorialized on the plat and PD, and the intent and commitments were for administrative offices, open space, and a single-family isolated home, which Mr. Greska and then Mrs. Greska, the original signers, just explained to you today. Furthermore, the applicant's proposed amendment does not meet 1520.02 because it is not consistent with the intent, preservation, and the commitment of the entire planned development, which included an isolated single-family home. Two of the original signers of the plat and PD, again, have testified to that intent. The approval of the Ninth Amendment does not preserve the isolated feature of the home on PA5. Also, this applicant's proposed amendment does not meet 1520.03 because it adversely affects the peaceful enjoyment of the adjacent land owned by the Greska family and thereby destroying the isolation and potentially contaminating their groundwater. Also to consider, the applicant's proposed amendment does not meet 1520.04 up there because it confers a special benefit upon the applicant to the detriment of the Greska family. Lastly, the applicant's proposed amendment does not meet 1520.07 because all the lots in questions are next to Tract D, and I've heard questions about this. This is an open space. It's not a road, and we've seen no evidence of an agreement with Denver Water Board or any other benefited parties of the easements on Tract D, which includes Mr. Greska. Approval of the Ninth Amendment would permit the open space to be used for 126 additional vehicles on a daily basis, according to the traffic impact analysis. And lastly, I think I'd just like to state, I don't think the Greska family should be penalized for a developer's lack of due diligence prior to purchasing or proposing this Ninth Amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Appreciate you listening to us.
No problem. Any additional citizen comment? Yes, sir.
Thank the board for letting me share some of my thoughts. My name is John Fredericks. I'm a longtime Ravenna resident, and I'm also the current president of the Ravenna Metropolitan District. I've lived there since 2008, and I've seen the ups and downs. We were very fortunate to have the Collins family and their team come in and pull us out of the bankruptcy. They've spared no expense at making the community as good as it can be. Adding these 10 homes adds everything from character to value. It works within the values of the current community, and it also will enable 10 more families to enjoy this incredible spot out in nature, the open space. I'd also like to say, as the Metro District president, this addition would bring more revenue, and it doesn't tax any of the current resources for the community, as well as it's a well-thought-out, well-planned, and works with all the community values. I'd also like to add, I was sad to hear that the Gretzka's position back in 2021, as president of the board at that time, we were approached by Kevin to try and make good on some of the past issues, and we sold the Gretzka family a portion of dirt, a little bit from Metro District, a little bit from River Canyon, to get them up and out of the flowment easement so they could build their home. And I thought, it's the least we could do. I think this project is a terrific addition to the Ravenna community and the surrounding community, and I'd like to hope for your consideration for approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let me ask if there's any additional citizen comment. Any additional citizen comment in the room? Is there any comment online, Christy? I think I heard that there was none.
I have no online comment, Commissioner Layden. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll close citizen comment with that and ask if staff or the applicant would like to respond to citizen comment.
Is it possible to take a quick 5-minute break?
Sure. I do have a relatively hard stop at about 5:20, but we'll take a brief couple-minute respite here and reconvene in about 3 minutes.
Thank you.
My microphone here. We're going to reconvene after our brief recess here. So if we can just, oh, okay. I think we're just waiting for Roberta from our clerk's office. Thought I saw her pop in. Okay. Thank you very much. So we'll reconvene, and I believe we were going to hear a response to all of the citizen comment from the applicant and staff. Mr. Collins?
Thank you, Commissioner. I think anybody can get up here and say whatever they want. I heard a lot of hyperbole, the word was used before this afternoon, and I think this is very appropriate time. There's a lot of accusations about environmental issues that we've caused. We've caused no environmental issues. There's no evidence to the effect that we did that. We take topsoil out of that area next to Mr. Greska's lot, in that there's 3 feet of great topsoil. It's great soil for us to combine with our operations in the golf course. And so we're in there all the time, taking dirt out and putting it back in. As far as any sledge that was put in there, it's really silt. It's silt from the pond in the front of the development that is captured for over 20 years. There's nothing in there. So there's really no environmental issues there. We would never do anything environmentally wrong. We live there. We're part of that community. We would never do anything that's not appropriate. As far as the environmental issues with Mr. Greska's well, he can go out and do test his well and determine the quality of his well just as well as anybody. So he needs to do that to get a baseline. There was a lot of accusations about intent and what happened 20 years ago. I feel for Mr. Greska. I understand that. There's no intent in that PD. That PD says what that PD says. There's one single family home on PA5, and that's all there is. There's nothing else that says anything in those documents about surrounding areas or other PA4 or PA1. There's nothing in those documents that says nothing can be built there, other than what's in the PD about maintenance, clubhouse, facilities, etc. So I don't, whatever those intents were 20 years ago, I know nothing about. I have nothing to do with that previous developer. We had nothing to do with those issues. I think there was a lot of issues that Mr. Greska probably created himself. He didn't have to move into that area. He could have done some due diligence and found out that it was a flowage easement. Again, that's not our problem. We tried to solve it for him. We tried to give him land. We allowed the Metro District to provide him the opportunity to buy land to build his home. Nothing is changing on the rest of that property. He's free to do whatever he wants to do on that property. And he has enough room to build a home. We've been more than upfront with trying to make that work for him. He needs a place to store his dirt after he starts building it. We try to work with him to store dirt on our property somewhere so that he doesn't have to pay the cost of taking dirt off of his site to a storage dump. So I really feel like there's nothing there was a lot of accusations and discussion about whether or not we met those approval standards. I feel that your staff has done an excellent job in reviewing what we've done and what we've provided. I feel like we're good citizens in this community. I feel like we've done everything we said we would do with that development when we took it out of bankruptcy and made it into what it is today. I think this will not affect Mr. Greska in any way, shape, or form. I think it's going to add value to what he has down there. We're talking about 10 lock and leave homes. We're putting up stone fences so that it won't be a burden to him. It should be a benefit for him. The same thing with our maintenance facility. We already have two facilities up there. We've got a sales office and a maintenance facility already. Nothing really changes too much. That sales facility probably had hundreds of vehicles at times coming through as we were trying to sell out the development. The 126 vehicles per day doesn't mean anything. It's a 40-foot entrance from Dante to Caretaker to get onto that, to get into the cluster homes that we're talking about building. And as far as Caretaker, it's not just a pathway or a dirt road, it's an access. There's an easement for it. It is a road, and people do have the right to drive on that road. In the future, Dominion's going to be, and Douglas County is going to be building that waste treatment plant. There's going to be a lot more trucks on that road to begin with also. So I think the isolated building, and again, I feel for Mr. Greska, I think he still has that opportunity to do it. He's just in a development area now that's developed. We've got 12,000 homes to the east. We've got 200 homes to the south. We've got developments just to the east of us, and it's not an isolated area. It just isn't. It's not the country farm that you thought it was 20 years ago. So I think we can all coexist. I think we can make it work for him. I think we can help him out to do what he needs to do to get his home built, and that's what we've tried to do, and we've done nothing different than that since the day we took over. So that's my response to that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Collins. Any further questions or comments for either the applicant or for staff?
I do. To staff, PA5, I can see a structure on PA5 in the aerial views. Is that structure there now, or is this an old aerial view?
Heather Scott for staff. There is an old foundation on that aerial view.
Okay, there is not a livable residential structure there now.
At this point in time, I believe not.
Okay.
And let me just ask the applicant, are you okay with the 3 conditions as presented?
Yes.
Okay. Further questions?
I do have some questions about how all this transpired. And if you're not the right person, I don't know if it's staff or Mr. Greska. So maybe I should just start with staff to make sure I understand how this happened. So the Greskas owned some property, and then Ravenna wanted to be built. So they asked Mr. Greska to trade some property so they could put their street, Dante, on where their home was. And then they were given other property, which is PA5. And they were living there in a modular home, and then the Army Corps of Engineers said, oh, wait a minute, that is a floodplain and you can't live there, so they had to leave that property. Am I on track so far?
Yes, Commissioner, that's based.
Okay, let me,
Sir, so this is the opportunity for the board to ask questions. We're going to ask for order in the room, please.
and so I could ask staff, and then if Mr. Greska wants to come back up, I would be fine to give him that opportunity. So then he had to leave that modular because it was in a floodplain. And then Mr. Collins and the Metro District offered to allow him to buy some additional property to add to PA5. Is that correct?
Mr. Greska came to us with a proposal to effectively buy some Metro District land, which would give him the opportunity then to get out of the floodplain and build it on a site where he is able to build.
Did that
correct.
transaction happen?
Yes.
So there is enough land there. I'll go to staff. There is enough land there. If Mr. Greska wanted to build a home there now, he has that ability.
Heather Scott for staff. Yes, he does. This was done during the 8th Amendment.
And is there anything in any of the plats? We've got lots of drawings and pictures here. Is there anything written in any of the plats that guarantees Mr. Greska the opportunity to have this isolated home that we are hearing about? Is that in any of the plat?
Heather Scott for staff. On page 4 of the actual 9th Amendment plan development, it goes through and it lists the different uses per area. Planning Area 5 is isolated single family. That's for Planning Area 5 only.
And is an isolated family home a legally defined term in our regulations?
No, it's not.
No. Okay.
It is in this plan development specifically. And So item H, isolated single family. Planning area PA5, principal uses, and it lists one single-family residence, one temporary residence, while this must be removed so many days thereafter. This document defines isolated single family.
And that is what Mr. Greska has the ability to build and occupy currently.
In planning area 5, yes.
And there's nothing in our regulations that would prohibit that from taking place. Curtis,
As long as Mr. Gretzka stays out of the floodplain.
I appreciate that addition. Is there a reason for the board to have Mr. Gretzka come up and just to clarify everything that we have heard?
I'll ask the county attorney, anything appropriate with reopening citizen comment for Mr. Greska to respond or answer questions from the board?
The board can ask Mr. Greska a question.
Okay, so because there's a board desire to do that, and if Mr. Greska is willing to, we invite you back up to maybe provide a response and answer some questions.
Thank you.
You bet.
Again, this is Bob Greska, owner of PA5.
So let me just ask this question that, I know that I value personal property rights, and I think that after listening to my fellow commissioners, they do the same. And I want to be sure that you have been made whole with your trade. And my first question is, did you have an attorney work with you while you did all of these trades and changes?
Well, they gave us yes, they gave us a written...
Who is they?
The developer.
The first developer?
Yes, the first developer, Mr. Dan Huda, gave us a written agreement of putting it on the plat, saying, and it's the only place, they don't have isolated homes up in Ravenna, way up behind the, behind the mountains, beyond the other side of the canal. There's nowhere is the term isolated use or permanent use. And that was designated by Mr. Dan Hudick, the previous owner of the development, to designate those on the plat as permanent offices and not a maintenance office, a permanent office, not a maintenance facility.
Okay, hold on. I asked you a question. Did you have an attorney work with you on paperwork when the original developer gave you this trade?
We did talk to attorneys back then, yes. I don't remember, it was 20 years ago.
Okay, did you have an attorney sign off on this agreement?
Well, we signed on the plat.
Okay. I have no other questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Any additional questions or comments for Mr. Greska?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do have a pressing question. Your sons have referred to the farm that was there at one time. What were the extents of that farm vis-a-vis the current property called Ravenna?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Well, what was the extents of your farm, and how does it relate to the property now called the Ravenna development?
Well, we had an old farmhouse that blocked the access where now they put Caretaker Road of, and they needed that access to get into, to develop the 600 acres. So when we negotiated an agreement with, the River Canyon to give up our home, the reason we negotiated was to remain as an isolated home out in the country. That was our whole intent. Otherwise, we would have never given up our home.
Again, what was the extent of the farm? If I'm looking at the aerial view of PA1, PA4, I can see Dante Drive, and I can see Waterton Road.
It was right under Dante Drive as it comes off of Waterton Road. It was right there. Draw a square from corner to road to corner to road or bigger. It was 1.24 acres.
Okay. Do you feel like you were compensated for?
No, because we got land that was in a flowage easement. They traded us land that was in a flowage easement, not a floodplain. I want to correct that. The floodplain is down by the river. Mr. Dan Huda came out there and said, you can build anywhere you want. This is the floodplain down by the river. You can build over here, anywhere on this piece of property. And that's why I said you're going to be isolated. You're going to have permanent offices over here that are basically 9 to 5 and not, working 24 hours a day with, maintenance facilities that usually work after hours on a golf court. They don't go out there when people are golfing and do all their maintenance. They do it on after hours. And so that's what we negotiated for. So we said, well, the offices are pretty much 9 to 5. Fine, we gave that concession. to, say, basically say, yeah, offices would be fine, but we don't want any other homes. And they agreed to, and that's why it says permanent offices, and that's why it says isolated home. And with the only word, it doesn't say isolated anywhere else.
Okay. And then, let's go to the trade. Were you asked to purchase PA5 property?
Well, we traded land and money to build a house, to rebuild our house, which is piddly right now with the inflation that we're at. So it's going to cost us a lot more money. I've just got that through the county. They're filing for final permits to build a house on that land we annexed on. We're just about ready to break ground within a month.
Okay. So, so your ownership is settled with the property on the 3 acres on PA5?
Yes, it's now 4.6 acres. We purchased that from the Metro District.
Okay.
And we got a tenth of an acre from Mr. Collins here.
But you are not yet residing on PA5?
Not yet. No, 18 years to fight this. I had to go through all kinds of gyrations. It took me 18 years to recover from the financial hardship of losing 2 homes. One was a temporary home, a mobile home. It was put on the property, and the other one was our home. It took 18 years, and it didn't help our divorce. I'll tell you, in our family situation and finances. It's been quite a struggle. I've worked 18 years hard at this to get this to the point we're annexing this land on so we can build. I don't want any more problems like this. We've been through enough.
Okay, thank you.
Anything additional for Mr. Greska?
I have none, thank you.
I'm good to go.
Okay. Thank you. And with that, I'll close citizen comment again and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and or a motion.
Commissioners, if we could clarify, Kurt Whitecomb for staff, we'd like to clarify something from the applicant's presentation that they wanted to clarify within the PD amendment. So.
Certainly.
So Heather Scott for staff, during the presentation on page 4, item F1, lines K and L, the applicant would like to strike from the plan development. So basically, that's removing permanent administration for golf course and temporary residential and golf course sales center lines, just to make sure that gets added into your proposal.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Was that in their application? Can you put? Are you able to put that back up so we can just see it, please?
For the record, this is their 13th slide.
So they're asking to remove these things
From the plan development, as in your packet, the 9th Amendment, page 4, item F, section 1, principal uses, and line items K and L.
And as staff, do you have any concerns about those removals?
Staff has reviewed them and does not have concerns because they're going to move them up as presented today to their clubhouse, which is under a different section which would allow for administration and like uses.
And Mr. Garcia, you agree with that?
That'd be fine.
Thank you.
Anything else from staff?
That's it.
I have nothing else.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for further discussion and or a motion.
Well, I'll go ahead and get us going then. I'm with the applicant on this one. I mean, I think that the applicant has found they're acting in accordance. I realize that for the owner of PA5 and for your family, there's a lot of talk about the intent of the PA, but the intent of the PA is a residential golf community. That's what the intent is. And so, adding 10 homes, and we often handle other issues that are far more than 10 homes. And so I just don't see the inconsistency with the intent. When we go to, can we please have conditions up? Oh, excuse me, not conditions, but our approval criteria, please. Sorry. Okay, so 152002. Again, I do find that the 10 homes, the change to a residential designation with the 10 homes presented is within the intent. When we talk about, that also speaks to 152001 in terms of overall intent of the plan development. When we talk about 152003, which I know we have heard in public comment, I guess if residence was established right now and residence was in place, there would be an argument here. I just don't see an argument here because the adversely affecting public, first of all, it's not adverse to the public interest that I can see. And as far as enjoyment of the adjacent land, I don't understand how that argument can be made. I understand it's been said, but I don't understand how that argument can be made when residence has not yet been established. And the owner of PA5 still has the opportunity, unless staff or legal is going to correct me, to establish what that enjoyment threshold actually is. I disagree with the assertions on 152004 on the special benefit on an individual. I think it's the corporate nature of the Ravenna development, I think has been established. And then 152007, I know was mentioned. The only problem is the capacity, the roadway capacity is in flux, but we have a commitment from the applicant with an additional commitment from, an additional assertion from Denver Water that, the roadway capacity will be up to standards. And so, with those reasons, I do have a motion to approve River Canyon Plan Development, Ninth Amendment, because it does meet all the approval criteria with 3 conditions as presented, project file ZR 2022-033.
I'm going to second that because I also have gone through the approval criteria, and I believe that each of the criteria have been met.
We have a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion? I will add my input that even though this is a challenging circumstance, I have also gone through the legal criteria and believe that it has been met. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion passes. So with that, we'll move on to our final item for today, which is item 3B, 10926 Democrat Road, Mountain View, Montessori, project file US 2023-001. Mike Pasica, Principal Planner, presenting for staff. Hi, Mike. And I believe we may be getting an abbreviated presentation today, if that would please the board.
I will be doing that.
Great.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Mike Vasika, representing Planning Services. The request before you is for a new large daycare center for up to 30 children within an existing church located on property zone Agricultural 1 and located at 10926 Democrat Road. This slide shows the intent of the USR review process. Staff received no public comments either for or against the application during the referral process, and the applicant has worked to address all referral comments. Planning Commission voted to approve the application 6-0 at their July 10th public hearing, and no one at that hearing spoke either for or against. The vicinity map, this is in the northeast corner of Douglas County. Zoning of the site is A1. A1 is also on to the west, north, and south, and large rural residential to the east. You can see the existing church in the south portion of the site, existing parking and access drives. This is the exhibit that's in your packet that shows just basically what we saw in the aerial photo. There'll be no exterior changes to the site with this proposal. The management plan covers the number of employees, hours of operation, number of students, etc. And take a quick look at one site photo that shows the existing church, the parking lot to the right, and the access drive that goes around the church. Here are the USR approval standards, and if the board finds that the application meets the approval standards for the USR, staff recommends the 4 conditions listed on page 124 of your board packet and shown here on this slide and this second slide here. That ends my presentation. If you have questions for me, I'm available. Otherwise, Nina Abril with Mountain View Montessori is here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, and let me just confirm that the applicant is okay with all the conditions as presented. You are? Okay, great. Does the board have any questions or comments for either staff or the applicant?
I have none, thank you.
No, sir.
And I have none either. With that, I'll open it up for any citizen comment, either in the room or online. Is there any citizen comment?
I have no online comment, Commissioner Layden.
Thank you, Christy. And with that, I'll close citizen comment, bring it back to the board for any further discussion and or a motion.
I'll just say that I looked through the criteria last night when I was reading the packet, and I feel that all of the approval standards have been met. And based on that, I will be making a motion to approve 10926 Democrat Road, Mountain View, Montessori, because it does meet all of the approval criteria with 4 conditions as presented. Project file US 2023-001.
Montessori schools didn't work for my family for charter school choice, but at the same token, I'm absolutely a supporter of choice in education, and I know of many people who've been very happy with Montessori schools, and I agree with my colleague that I think you've checked all the blocks that we needed you to do, so I will second.
Thank you for that. Colleagues, we have a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries. The next land use meeting public hearing will be held on Tuesday, August 8th, 2023 at 2:30 p.m. We are adjourned. Thank you.